You know, that was just another Tuesday, right? So it's like...
Just Tuesday, just want to grab it was fine.
And look round, there's Dr. Dre and Paul McCartney jumping up and down in the front of house to the, you know, to like big EDM music. And I was like, I don't know what to do. She was like, well, will you regret not at least giving it a try?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I will. And she was like, well, what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
So like next day I accepted the offer. I still think there's way more that can be done in those career days, because we don't all fit that box, and there's some incredible creative minds that must get lost, that should come into this world, that kind of feel like they've got to go down like a really
just
traditional
bracket,
Something you may not know about Coachella. I have something. Yeah, I think I can talk about it.
Try it, see what happens.
So
Hello and welcome to FairPlay, the Fair's new show exploring journeys through the magical medium of music.
Guests are asked to choose 5 songs which define their journey through life in the industry. Whether it be a song from their first concert, the first act they ever booked, a guilty pleasure, and so many more.
I'm Nicky D.
And I'm Will.
For those who don't know, the Fair are an independent festival production company based in London but producing events across the UK, in Europe, the US, the Metaverse and beyond.
We've created this show as we are keen to amplify a range of voices from across the industry. Whether it be from DJs to promoters, production staff to agents, we've been speaking to people from all across the festival sites.
We've attached a track list in the description below. Take a look and leave a comment.
So joining us today is Skiddle's very own Duncan King. So how's your day going, Duncan?
hello, very good.
Good.
Really pleased to be here. First podcast I've done, so go gentle with me.
We're with you, but we're very welcome to be here. And I think I'd normally say how's your journey here, but you're actually in the building with us, which is great.
Like literally I think we're actually the next floor up from this actual office.
Oh, brilliant.
So if there's any noise in the background, it's the guys at work stamping their feet.
So hopefully today
Yeah.
the Skiddle team will be there for you. So for those who didn't know, Duncan is the head of festivals and partnerships at Skiddle, and this is one of the UK's biggest online event discovery platforms, which is fantastic. But he also has a wide range of other roles that you've done, which would be great to hear more about. So managing for people like Camel Fat to DJ Fresh, and also commuting to Las Vegas, which we definitely want to get into later. But where did it all start? So you're sort of 14-year-olds, local grassroots.
Yeah, totally. I talk a lot about grassroots.
For the listeners who don't know out there, can you just maybe give us a bit more?
So when we talk about grassroots, we're talking about localised small venues that kind of support a community, as well as giving that localised community kind of access to arts and culture. And I grew up in a military town called Aldershot in Hampshire.
Oh yeah.
And we were, me and my friends, sort of getting into teenage years, started discovering music, and we had this incredible venue that's still there, still operating today, called the West End Centre. And some of the bands that played there have gone on to be huge, but for us it was it was like finding your own little community. But for me, that just sparked this thing in the back of my head that music was what I wanted to do. Yeah. And I was never, I played guitar and stuff, but very badly. And then one of my friends, Matt, he still is an incredible drummer, and he started drumming for a local punk band. And I used to be a bit of a guitar tech, and I'd, change the strings, push the drums back because he used to hit me so hard. And kind of from there, that, kind of being in and around music, that I realised then and there that's really what I wanted to do. And kind of everything from there's come from that. And, it's 20 years of music.
Just music and joy and just your passion.
Yeah, I talk about this a lot with people that I know in the industry, and there's a real strange moment when your hobby becomes your day job.
Yeah, and you're like, oh God, I'm going to pay for this now. This is amazing.
Yeah, and I think as time goes on, then you kind of, music is still very much part of my life, but you kind of discover other hobbies because it becomes your main, from the moment you wake up to the moment you sort of finish, it's just music. But, I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely wouldn't change a thing. And I think these, venues like the West End Centre, they're so important. Like we'll talk about it a bit later, but, we work very closely with Music Venue Trust and various other people to try and support these grassroots venues, and to kind of, I don't want a 14-year-old version of me back in Aldershot now, not having that opportunity to experience that like I did.
It is, like I say, it's the music, it's the community sort of base, which is fantastic, and I think it is what's needed. And for those people who, feel on the outside and don't necessarily feel like they are, you know, in the popular group or in this group, to have that place to go to was amazing. And you were kind of speaking about, you know, some of the bands that were there and have maybe gone on to do bigger and better things. Was there any sort of specific names that we might know?
Oh God, there was, and the name has completely lost me. Like stadium act level artists, and Frank Turner's actually. I don't know if you've seen. He's doing this incredible. They're trying to break a world record of playing the most cities in one 24-hour period.
Wow.
And he's actually part of that tour, even though it's not a city. I don't know the technicalities. Guinness Book of World Records for it, but he's a part of that tour. He's going to the West End Centre, and his stage time is 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday.
And how long are the sets for? Because if
they're all 20-minute acoustic sets.
Oh, brilliant! So an easy setup.
Yeah, but totally sold out. I think yesterday there was London, Portsmouth and one other city out of all of them that hadn't sold out. And, you know, the fact that local people get to see somebody like Frank Turner play and they're buying tickets to go and see him at 7:30 in the morning on a Sunday. Like, you know, this shows you that.
Will the tuck shop be open, do we think, at the time?
I would hope so. At least the bacon bap in the morning. Do you know what I mean?
Got to start it out with a bit of a hash brown. Yeah. Smashing.
Yeah, I just can't see that the bar will be too busy. But, you know, it's just incredible. There's artists like him that you know, understand the importance of venues in the community. The rate that venues are shutting in the UK is crazy, but you know, there's incredible people working to kind of make sure that, you know, that decline stops and that, you know, these places are available for everybody.
Wicked. And so that was your first venue.
Yep.
Your first concert. How did that come about?
My first concert. So I was a bit of an indie kid, as you'll see with some of the music that I've picked. Even though I've worked in electronic music all my life, I've never really done a little bit of live. But
it was the strings and the pushing the drums back.
It's the strings and the so it was, and obviously, you know, we couldn't get into a rave at 14, 15, but we could go and watch a band. Yeah. So, you know, it was again access to culture. But again, my friend Matt, his mum drove us over to Guildford to the Civic Hall. We had 2 seats on the balcony. Me and my mate. It was the first time I'd seen a proper concert. Yeah, the boom. Yeah, and that was just mind blowing to kind of go into that. You know, I mean. Obviously the experience of the West End Centre, I was a few hundred people, you know, and suddenly seeing over 1,000 people in a crowd watching a band, and it was Shed 7, and you know, they've always stuck with me from that, you know, from that point. And I think you can think back to these times and you're straight back there. There's not many other things in life apart from music that can suddenly transport you to a place and time. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been back to that venue either. Like, I think that was the first and last time I ever went there. But it was just amazing. And, you know, kind of that again, like all these key things would just reinforce the fact that this is what I wanted to do. And I think there was a big thing when I was at school and at college, because the idea of there being jobs in music that weren't being a musician, you know, it doesn't come up at career day. No, it doesn't. You know, it should. And it totally should, you know. And I think for me, there was like a really big realization kind of when I got to university that there's actually a career in this industry without having to be the talent. When you start to get in and you realize all these roles, like I do sort of talks with different colleges and stuff, and you know, even if you're really good at accountancy but you love music, you know, the thought that you know, well, actually you can be an accountant in the music industry, and actually
it never gets spoken about, does it?
It really doesn't get spoken about. I've got a friend of mine who's a long distance truck driver, and he's just discovered live touring. Yeah. For him, he was saying to me the other day, it feels like he's opened this magic box and he never realised that he could actually do what he does, but doing something really that he's interested in.
Just connecting the dots, isn't it?
Connecting the dots. I mean, it's obviously, you know, I sound like an old man with the internet now. You've got this access. Back in my day.
You'd have to put the 50p in as well.
But you know, there is more access to it. But I still think there's way more that can be done in those career days, because we don't all fit that box, and there's some incredible creative minds that must get lost, that should come into this world, that kind of feel like they've got to go down like a really traditional
bracket,
Yeah, totally.
Well, I definitely want to talk about this, but let's take you back to the Shed 7 concert.
Yeah.
Let's take you back to Guildford. So this is She Left Me on a Friday by Shed 7. So that was the lovely Shed 7, She Left Me on a Friday. So we've just been discussing while the wonderful songs we're playing, sort of how Duncan got into the more sort of creative and music industry. So you're just saying about your degree in visual communications?
Yeah, so when I kind of got through sixth form, I still had in the back of my head that I was going to have to get a normal job.
It's that connotation there, isn't it? A normal job.
A normal job. And I was really into sport as well. So I was doing a biology degree, a physical education and graphic design.
Yeah.
And then when I realised that actually, I had very supportive parents, and I realised that, right, I'm going to give this the creative world a go. Went to art college and then went on to university to do a visual communication degree. And for me, that was my way in.
Yeah.
Because I could obviously see all this, these great album artworks, record sleeves. And for me, not knowing how to get into it, that was a really good way of getting into it, by being able to design record sleeves, to do all of that. So my first proper full-time music job was when I joined 360 Group, and we were a very small company at the moment. I think there was only 6. There was the 3 founders and 2 of us working full-time. And I came in because they needed help running the record labels. But my plan worked 100% because they also needed somebody to design all the record sleeves.
Yeah, funny you mentioned it. Here's my degree.
And it was a bit like, well, I can do this. And, I'd been working at a really good agency for a couple of years, creative agency, and was doing okay, and had to take a massive pay cut to go and do the job. And I had a DJ residency at the time at a Sunday morning after party called Jaded,
right,
which used to be at Egg. It used to start like 5:30 in the morning.
Oh yes, standard normal.
Yeah, standard normal clubbing. And then when I took the job, I was really I just didn't know whether to leave this safe role as a graphic designer, move across to this new music company. And I was talking to Krista, who's the promoter, and I was like, I don't know what to do. She was like, well, will you regret not at least giving it a try?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I will. And she was like, well, what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
So next day I accepted the offer. And then, that was just such a catalyst, because, we were looking after Calvin Harris, Deadmau5, really early, before, Calvin had just had his first solo album. And then I ended up doing lots of the creative for all of Deadmau5's albums and tours. And, we kind of went on and worked with Swedish House Mafia and all these big, during that whole EDM explosion time. Yeah. And I wouldn't have got that far if it hadn't have been for the design work at the start and taking that risk. Yeah. So it kind of all, without me realising, it all kind of worked out like how I wanted it to work out. But I think that, having that access to
that pathway,
and understanding that if you are a creative and not the talents, that there are these kind of roles within it.
If teams surrounding them too,
and it's the team surrounding them, and travel. You might be a travel agent. There's jobs as travel agents within the music industry, and I think when you're not in it like we are, you don't realise quite how much goes on behind the scenes to make this. To make these events and these kind of big tours and these big brands happen.
Because everyone just sees like the end product, don't they?
They see the end product, and you don't realise that, there's a bunch of lawyers involved. Yeah. There's, some incredible accountants, incredible marketing teams, incredible designers, all these different people that kind of so essential for the fabric of the whole kind of music industry. And, but from the outside, it's always just the talent. And the event, Well,
I suppose it's like, so going back to what we were sort of saying earlier about education, and obviously you're trying to find it in the colleges, but then realistically, like trying to push it even down to the schools, because it is those very sort of old subject matters where, like we just said, like things with accounting, things with travel, they can be linked to help with that final product.
If you're really good with numbers, but numbers don't excite you, a life working for a chartered accountancy company probably...
Hi Mum, how you doing?
Yeah, it's probably not your thing, but if you are good with numbers and you're really creative and you like the music industry, just to understand that those things are there. And I think that it's getting better, the education is getting better, but after school, I think still school age, like, music classes are being cut left, right and centre, support for the arts and creativity. And I think, that it's not looked at as important. Creative arts are so important for, as a child, your mental well-being. Like, I've got 2 kids. I always try and be creative with them. And we've got pack-up art easels. So we go down to the beach with paints and canvases, and they sit there and they paint and they get the sand on the canvases and stuff like that.
Like, as much as that just seems like painting on, it's not. It's like colours, teamwork, common sense, all those sort of things that you need in life. And that, I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I think, during COVID, when it was like, if you had a creative job, you were told to like go and retrain in those elements. And it was like,
but what would have happened if everybody had gone and retrained?
Yeah. What would you have read in books? What would you have watched on the TV? What would you have listened to? Like, creativity is the thing that keeps everything going.
And it is, and it's, it's the balance of life, isn't it? Again, it comes back to this importance of us protecting culture and arts and allowing them to thrive. You look back at history, the way that the culture and subculture and counterculture crosses over, and it's this constant evolving rhythm. And you have these big political moments that are linked to different parts. You go back in history and you can kind of track what's happened in the world with what's happening with culture at the time. And the big changes, they don't come from elsewhere, they come from the creative world. And that's where you see inclusivity, all of these things, they all tend to start within that subculture. What I like now is that as an industry, we're really getting a voice, and we're starting to make everybody understand like the worth of culture, the worth of music, the worth of festivals. It from a financial point of view, even just electronic music, the billions of pounds that it puts in the economy. We've never had to talk about it. Everybody's been quite happy in their own, we haven't needed help from the government. We haven't needed this. And then, kind of in our time of crisis, when we actually finally asked for help, there was no help there.
You were just like, you don't need it.
Just go and retrain. It's, telling somebody that's been on the road for 20 years to suddenly retrain and go and work a 9 to 5 in Tesco's. That obviously a lot of people did leave the industry. Staffing is very difficult. Even security staffing now is so hard, as you guys will know more better than most. But I mean, what would happen if everyone just abandoned?
It would be a very, very dark, sad world. But we're going to segue slightly into a place that's not very dark and sad, a lovely place called Glastonbury. And I believe you had a lovely time there. What was your sort of first time you went? What age were you at?
So we were 17.
So okay.
Yeah. So it was pretty much the biggest life-changing moment. And I mean, I'm getting all goosebumps now just thinking about it. As bad as it is, we snuck in, as you did back then.
We've had many guests that have snuck in, don't worry. It's okay.
We snuck in, and we had this crappy 2-person tent and a bigger tent, but the bigger tent it was one of the really muddy years.
Oh, nice. Okay.
I think it was like 90, it would have been like 97.
Just like a plastic bag in the mud.
And literally we had these welly boots like rigged out of gaffer tape and bin bags. And I keep coming back to Matt. I never talk about Matt at all, but literally he had these bin bags taped to his legs for 5-6 days.
I feel like if you haven't had some form of bin bag or gaffer tape footwear to get you through an event.
It was just it was wild. And we camped at the back of the main stage. It just blew our minds. Like we'd been to a couple of other festivals as like for the day, V, where it's all very nice and, like netting on the floor. And then to be thrust into this field.
Into real life.
And and this is a time when there was a dance stage. It wasn't like it is now, where you've got these multiple dance villages and everything going on. The music wasn't all night. There was one all night. This was amazing, and it was the Kodak shop. And basically,
for those of you who don't remember,
it's film for cameras, but they had this, and they were allowed to play music 24 hours a day.
Right.
And it was literally past like 2:00 in the morning. It was the only place, and it was just full of and like even like us just standing there looking at this collection of people
having a nice time,
having a lovely time. And it was just, I think for everybody that Glastonbury experience, if you have it early in your journey, is quite a life-changing moment, because you're exposed to all these different types of people, especially growing up in suburbia. You kind of you're not very wide-eyed to the world.
Yeah, you're looking through a keyhole.
You're looking. Yeah, somebody said the music, and I forget who it is. It's somebody quite famous, and they said the music industry is made up of teenagers looking through their front windows in suburbia.
Yeah.
And it very much is. And you kind of, when you then see it in real life and experience it, it was just mind blowing.
So one of those tracks you said that sort of reminds you of that is the Chemical Brothers. So this one's Chemical Brothers, Out of Control. So that was Chemical Brothers, Out of Control. So that was obviously your 17-year-old experience. Yep. Not the Chemical Brothers, but now obviously being the head of Skiddle and sort of going back there, and obviously with your other roles as well. Being in front of the stage and also being behind the stage now, what are sort of those some experiences?
I genuinely think it was one of the most proudest moments of my life when I went there with an act. To think back to that 17-year-old kid wanting to be in it, and then being like randomly like the crew transportation on site at Glastonbury. I don't know whether anyone's experienced it before, but a lot of the time you're in the back of a transit van or something like that, because it's so big, so you're going around. And we came in, I was with an act that I was managing at the time, and we'd done a short UK tour, and we were playing Sunday night at Glastonbury. And we came in at night on the tour bus, sort of got some sleep, woke up in the morning, and
that's just a massive shift in like from the 10 on the tour bus.
Like completely. And waking up in the tour bus, first tour bus tour as well. So it was like quite a proud moment for me. And I got out of the bus in the morning, and we were kind of parked up with all the other tour buses. And one of my other favourite bands from back then, a band called Ash, that we'll play a song later, but their tour bus was parked next to ours. Yeah. Next thing, there's a knock on the door. I've opened the door, and it was Tim Wheeler, the lead singer of Ash. And he was like, and I was like, "You're right." He was like, "Your tour bus sounds so much more fun than ours." He said, "I've got loads of booze." He's like, "Do you mind if we come and hang with you guys?" I was like, absolutely. I was sat there talking to him, and I was like, "Well, look, I've got to say, like for me growing up, you were a massive influence over what we did." Talking about different shows that I've been to, and it was really lovely. I always think, like, if you meet one of your heroes, like obviously you can't fangirl too much, but you should tell them the influence that they've had over over your life and your career, right? And we spent sort of 4 or 5 hours sat there drinking, talking about music, and it was just amazing. And I think that wouldn't mean a lot to anybody else apart from me. It's a very personal thing, and I think it's a real wake-up call to actually
it was
I'm still a fan.
The universe is like giving you a little
Yeah.
Remember where you came from, and this is what you're now surrounded by, which you work so hard for.
Yeah, and it really was, because that bus could have parked anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, in that long line of, I wouldn't have noticed it if we were 50 yards further down to the right. You know, so and that was incredible. And you know, I think it's really important, you know, when you work in this industry, that you kind of have to remind yourself that you're here because you're a fan first and foremost.
Yeah.
And like taking enjoyment, I obviously get to go to a lot of events and kind of work behind the scenes, but I still make a point of going as a fan as well. It's a lot of fun reconnecting with the music fan in you, right?
So with the enjoyment sort of side of it, obviously, you know, this work can be very intense. And you sort of told us about what you do on the sidelines. So maybe, you know, these like what you do for sport and sort of...
Yeah, so I mean, I spent 15 years working in nightclubs and late nights, and a lot of bad behaviour, and you kind of, lots of drinking, lots of late nights, you know, and it's an intense world, right? Especially when you're working with, you know, kind of electronic music, because a majority of it is happening post midnight. From 18, 19, didn't exercise kind of professional drinker, really. So I got to a point a few years ago where, and it was actually my little girl, it's quite a personal story, but we were sat there watching a Christmas film, and I kept catching it, and she was looking at me, looking at my belly, looking at me. And I'm like, you okay, darling? And she sort of got really shy. She was like, Daddy, your belly's too big. I was like, honestly, I tried holding back tears. And I was like, I said to her, do you want Daddy to get fit? Yeah. She was like, yeah, I want you to still be able to put me on my shoulders when I'm older. Like, honestly, like all the...
just like, sports clothes, running clothes, let's go, it's done.
And so, like, literally, it was a real wake-up call for me to kind of, to bring some balance back into my life. So started getting into running, started getting into fitness, lost about 3 stone. I'm now sober, 3 months, no alcohol at all. Yeah. But I've found that I really enjoy endurance sport. Did the London Marathon 2 years ago, which was incredible. And I think when you've worked in music, especially, your midlife crisis is very different to people that haven't. Whereas everybody that's had a really normal job, suddenly, get to 40, late 30s, 40s.
I'm going to crochet. It's
gonna happen. Whereas, I think when you've worked in it for a long time, you kind of go the other way. And it's been the best thing I've ever done. I've had through, work-related issues and, like a majority of people that work in this industry, lots of up and down with mental health. Yes. And I find that running especially, it just clears my head. It's learning that competition just with yourself. And it's funny, I've got so many friends in the industry. I've actually got 2 promoters that run in the London Marathon this year. Like, work life, it's busy. And, it's 2-3 hours that I can get out and not take a call, not think about anything.
Let's go into that mindset now. We're on a run and we're going to take you there with this track now. So it's Bentley Rhythm Ace, and this is Bentley Going to Sort You. Yeah. So this will be us running all the way past the 10 Barrier with Duncan. Cheers. So that was Bentley Rhythm Ace, and that's Bentley's Going to Sort You Out. Was that always like a running track for you, or was that...
It's just one of those records that can take me back to a moment where I'm a little bit carefree. Yeah. With that record, we tried to go into the tent. It was at Reading Festival, that one, and we tried to go into the tent to see them, and they shut the tent. It was too busy. So we managed to sneak in around the side. So we kind of went in underneath the Harris fencing next to the stage, and then literally like commando rolled in underneath the kind of skirt of the tent.
And then just stood there as well.
And it was like it was like being transported into a different place. Like, again, I can see the lights and the colours and everything now. And again, those kind of records for me, just they kind of de-stress, take away that kind of work pressure. Yes. And then I'm back to 17-year-old me without a care in the world. Yeah. It's hugely important.
And I think it's important to remember those sort of carefree moments, isn't it? And I think something we want to discuss is obviously the amazing work that you're doing with Skiddle at the minute across the country with this fantastic campaign. If you'd let the listeners know.
I've been with Skiddle 5 years now, and love working for the company. And we're music fans. We're real people. We're not a big corporate company. We're still independent. So we feel like we can actually relate to our customers and our event organisers, right? Yeah. And there's a certain level of due care that you've got to have for people, and to protect this incredible world we work in. Helping our promoters goes beyond just helping them sell a ticket. Yeah. And a lot of the people we work with, they're independent. They're not part of massive companies. They haven't got HR managers. They haven't got healthcare. They're working a lot at night, unsocial hours. Yeah. Effectively, this industry is primed for periods of poor mental health. Yeah. And we ran a survey back in 2018 that was quite a wake-up call, really, to see how much pressure mentally and financially our promoters are. The survey still gets referenced now, so we felt that now was probably the right time to come back out and do another survey. So we've partnered with some incredible people. So we're working with the Music Venue Trust, Association of Independent Promoters, Association of Independent Festivals, the Nighttime Industries Association, Association for Electronic Music, and all the main music charities as well, so music support, help musicians.
So the Arts Council as
Arts
well,
Council, we're doing some bits with the Arts Council as well, and we want to be able to help the people that need the most amount of help. You know, from a purely business point of view, for us to have healthy, happy promoters means it ripples out. Part of what happens, I think, very much regionally, like we were talking about earlier with grassroots music, you know, the importance of these out of the big cities and into these regional areas where people won't necessarily feel that there's any support available. I don't know if you've seen the Shout tech service that's in partnership with Amazon Music, and they've actually financed it, and it's a 24-hour text response, emergency response for anybody suffering with mental health issues in any capacity working with the music industry. So it's very tailored. These things are so important, and you know, for us, we feel like it's our duty to help. We work with so many venues, so many promoters, that we can get a real good understanding of what's actually happening. And regionally, you know, our people in the Northwest suffering more from one particular issue. Are people in London suffering because of something else? And that data that we get out, we can then work with all of our various partners to make sure that help's getting directed to the right places. And it is, you know, you can understand if you're a promoter in Carlisle, you probably don't know that any of this is available. We're very good at talking about stuff, but actually getting to the people that need
doing the legwork and get the
doing the legwork, and that's where we feel we come in, because we are that conduit between the you know, the promoter and the customer, and the promoter and the kind of wider world, and anything we can do to help for somebody that's had bad periods of poor mental health. And you know, my main bad times happened around sort of 7 odd years ago, and even just the change from then to now with the access to help, it's, you know, it's chalk and cheese. It's completely different. And I think, you know, from a very personal point of view, I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. So it's like the more we can bring that kind of access to people that might not necessarily think they've got the access.
So for our listeners and sort of viewers out there, what platforms and where should they look? Just on the Skiddle website?
Yeah, just on the Skiddle website. It's not on the customer facing part of the website, because it's very much being directed to the promoters. So our promoter website is promotioncentre.co.uk, and all the information sort of on the NTIA and all the various organisations as well. But
and it'll be on the bottom of the screen here.
The
survey is fantastic, and I think having those sort of platforms out there for people to talk about their mental health, and as we were sort of saying, with this industry it can be quite crazy, and you do have those highs and lows. It'd be great to hear more about some of your highs and lows on previous jobs. You told us that you worked in Vegas and things were a little bit crazy, so I think if we can share that with it.
That was a mad year of my life. I've been working at a company called AEI Media, running their record label, and then I got approached, you know, this new opportunity, and kind of anyway, it transpired that there was a new hotel being built in Las Vegas. It was during the whole EDM explosion. And effectively the hotel and the club wanted to start developing their own talent. So they wanted to set up a record label, and kind of I got approached about doing it. Ended up working out there for a year, commuting back and forth, which was wild. So I'd kind of do 2 weeks in Vegas, 2 weeks back here, 2 weeks in Vegas,
that is
2 weeks.
Crazy.
And Vegas and work.
Inverted commas.
It was an incredible experience, right? And you know, Eric Prids was our resident DJ playing the opening party. Like the excess out there,
I know the name of the DJ.
the excess out there is just wild. And like, we used to seeing under the bonnet of how Vegas works is mind blowing, and the way that just the volume of money that gets spent. Like, we used to have this guy that used to come in pretty much every night of the week.
Is it like Ocean's 11?
It very much so.
Wonderful.
But this guy used to come in white t-shirt like this, fairly good watch on, but nothing over the top. But he'd spend 20 grand every night. And, you know, the level of excess, and it was a strange time as well for Vegas, because I think that EDM bubble was huge, but as an industry, Vegas is built on acts that come to Vegas at the end of their career, not at the beginning.
Do you think that's still a thing though? Because I feel like there's sort of more current artists.
Well, there's more current artists, but you know what kind of became clear with us was that it really wasn't like a home for developing talent.
Yeah.
You know, somewhere you went when you were pretty much formed, and kind of understanding the, you know, that kind of whole world, and a surviving a year out there is just, I'm so happy I got through it. This sums up Vegas. They had a 727 package. So basically, $727,000.
I'm sorry.
You got a 727 or 737, $737,000. That's it. So you got a 737 plane would come and pick you and your friends up anywhere in America.
The lounge or the hotel.
They would take you to Vegas.
Yeah.
You got all the suites. You got all of your drink at the club.
Yeah.
And then you got the big red button. And the big red button, whoever got the big red button, you hit the button and it would set all the fireworks off on the roof of the hotel. And it was just the most
pricey button.
Very pricey button. But I mean, that just sums up the place, right? There's no morning, noon and night. Everything is just excess and just wild. Definitely a job for a younger man. I couldn't do it now, but
you're still young. It's fine.
Yeah, ish.
So would you say that was the wildest thing you saw in Vegas? The 730.
You know, just incredible times, and I think it was right in the middle of that whole EDM explosion where it was just everything America wanted. Yeah. And you know, this little old me driving up to London from a flat in Gillingham in Kent, you know, and it's like suddenly then I was literally getting chauffeur-driven car pick me up from my bungalow in Medway to go
I
to
love the word, the fact that bungalow was there. That was my favourite.
You know what? Like it's so not Vegas.
And was there any artists that you wish that you could have worked with?
There's loads of artists. I think artist management's a very interesting job. It comes with its own unique set of pressures. But I mean, for me, I would love to have been around about 10 years earlier.
Okay.
I think to have been in and around it when it, you know, especially with electronic music, when that was all kind of really popping off, would have been great. But to be honest, most of the acts that I really like, especially within electronic music, I've got to work with, which is just
incredible.
The weirdest moment is when you're in a studio with somebody that you really respect for the first time, and they're playing you their music and asking you what you think.
Just kind of
DJ Fresh, when we were looking after DJ Fresh, and you know, the kind of first meeting I had with Dan, and sat down and sort of playing me all his new music. He's like, "What do you think?" And it's like, "Well, yes, fucking great."
All of it.
All of it's great. But it is, you know, you kind of have to pinch yourself every now and again. Yeah. That's what you do.
Well, let's have a little pinch myself moment here. So we're going to play homage to an artist that's no longer here. So this is one of your tracks. It's California Love by Dr. Dre and Tupac.
With that song, I was very lucky to go to Coachella when Snoop and Dre played, and they brought out the Tupac holograms. It was just mind blowing, and the hologram appeared and said, "What up, Coachella?"
Yeah.
And, you know, 100,000 people just lost their minds. It was a very special trip, that. We were out there because we were managing the Swedish House Mafia, and I'd got flown out a few days before because we'd literally just taken them on. They had left their previous manager, and they had literally 7 days before their headline Coachella show. Yeah. So it's kind of all hands on deck. So we flown out there, kind of sat down with the guys. Anyway, next thing we're at Coachella, and they were kind of co-headlining with the Black Keys.
Okay.
So, but the Black Keys were very sensible, and they were meant to be the final act. And they were like, we're not going to go on after some noisy EDM. So they actually swapped around. But we've stood there, and I was stood there in the front house watching. And obviously, it's California, right?
Yeah.
Everything's a bit different. Laws are a little bit more lax, and there was this kind of fruity smell in the air. And I was sitting with there watching. I said to my boss, I was like, kind of, where's that smell coming from? Yeah. He's like, look round again. And I've looked round, there's Dr. Dre and Paul McCartney jumping up and down in the front of house to like big EDM music. Yeah. And it's just mind blowing, you know, like those kind of things.
It's nice to see them on the other side as well, and just enjoying the music.
Right. I never dreamt that those two would
Yeah.
even want to come and watch and act like the Swedish House Mafia, you know. And that was crazy. I actually met Alex from the Arctic Monkeys the following day, and kind of we had this little moment as he came off stage and we passed.
Yeah.
And had this little chat, and he's a fantastic fella.
Ooh.
Oh, something you may not know about Coachella. I have something.
Yeah.
I have something.
It's all a hologram.
So, yeah, I think I can talk about it.
Try it, see what happens.
So, and I only discovered this because my friend one year was the mayor. So there is a whole other part to Coachella that no one ever gets to see called Safari.
All right.
And it's basically a village out the back of Coachella.
Yeah.
That is, so every year there's a different mayor.
Right.
And it is kind of the ultimate VIP area.
Right.
There you have, there's, you know, high-end sushi chefs in there cooking lunch. And
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it in my life at a festival. And it's just all tucked away. The mayor of that area basically calls the shots for the
And then
festival.
we'll go there, and obviously that'll be their area. But
Yeah,
then
and that's
still...
their area, and there's multiple. It's all different. It literally looks like you've gone out on safari, and you know they've put all the tents up in the middle of the Serengeti. It's that kind of vibe, and you have your own private transport back and forth for the.
Is it like
day.
a giraffe or an elephant?
Yeah. Oh, mate, imagine coming in on the back of an elephant.
How
It'd
was everyone?
be like the Major Lazer video, wouldn't it? It's. But yeah, that was my Coachella.
I think as well, like we were sort of talking about meeting your heroes,
Yeah.
and were there any sort of other heroes that you met, and it was that wonderful experience again, where it was just like, oh my god, you're amazing.
Yeah, there's been a couple of dicks. That's just that's just standard. You know, artists and egos kind of go hand in hand. But I've been pretty impressed. Everyone that that I've respected pre my work life, they've delivered and been totally sound.
So again, the universe is just going, it's all right, Doug, let's just keep going. All these people.
It does these little things every now and again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's just little reminders. It's like, yeah, no, you're doing all right. You're on the right path.
Well, to let you know you're doing all right, we're going to go into one of your lovely tracks, which is from Ash, and I have now found the piece of paper, which is wonderful. So this is taking you right back to the wonderful Ash, who you met. It was at Glastonbury, correct?
Yep, Glastonbury.
Backstage with the lovely tour bus. This is Girl from Mars by Ash. So that was Ash, and we're just talking about memorable moments. And while the wonderful track was playing, we were getting into a bit more about Dunk's incredible journey. And you were saying, I think it's just that how humble you are about all the things that you've done. And as we were speaking, if you can now just tell the listeners what you just said.
Yes, so it was a really strange time because we were kind of in this really successful period, and it was like we didn't even have time to really kind of appreciate the successes. One of the acts that kind of came to me, and I still remember one of the DJs that we were looking after came in. He was like, we've got this new act that we found called Skrillex. Well, it's Deadmau5, and he's come to me, he's gone, I want to release this guy's album. And it was like, anyway, sent me the music, and it was obviously this early iteration of all the big dubstep stuff. And I kind of remember ringing my boss, Dean, at the time. I was like, don't really understand this. But you could tell there was something in it. And we did a deal with Warner, who Sonny was signed to at the time, to release his debut album as Skrillex, that we released on Mousetrap, Deadmau5's label. And the album, I mean, we kind of took over Beatport. It just that I've in all my life of releasing records, like pre-streaming days, nothing ever sold that quick as that record did. It was just there are these moments in time, I think, when if you've been lucky like I have to be around these subculture explosions, and it was just like it was like in the middle of this like rage, this explosion, and it just went. And I mean, went on, the record won the Grammy. It was Sonny's first Grammy winning record that I released, so it was pretty cool. But again, like in those, it's only sort of looking back now that you even realise that that was just another Tuesday, right? So it's
just like Tuesday, just want to Grammy. It was fine.
And I sound like a when you talk about it like that, but you
don't. No.
But you don't. You get caught. You're very much you're living it. But like as you said, kind of looking back, it's I've released a Grammy-winning album. You know, we've had multiple #1 records. You know, even like when I was working with Camel Fat and the Cola record, which we couldn't get signed. We literally nobody would sign the record. We set up the session with Elderbrook in a studio in London. Got the guys to come down. Kind of Mike from Camel Fat called me back in, and he was like, I think we got something here. Sat down, played me the record. I was like, fuck, wow. Yeah. No one had signed it. Like, it went round label to label. It went to Defected. Nothing happened. And then I don't know whether something had happened, whether somebody had played it and it kind of, and then Andy Daniels, who was the A&R label manager at Defected at the time, literally got a message from him like, actually, I think we need to do this record. Yeah. And obviously,
you do.
And obviously, it's gone on to be like one of the biggest sort of electronic records of the last kind of, sort of 10 years probably. And, you look back at these times and, I'm very, very privileged to have been around a lot of really cool stuff.
You've also worked your butt off.
But yeah, as well. It's a privilege from working really hard. Right?
I think that's how it kind of sums up the context of that whole conversation before. The listeners out there, I was saying that, you obviously don't sort of celebrate these things. Yeah. And you were saying like, #1's in the office, you didn't even go for lunch. No. So that's why we stopped everything. It's like, no, you've done Grammys, you've done these amazing singles, so we wanted to celebrate that. But I think that, unfortunately, brings us to the end of our festival journey with you. Thank you so much for coming to today, Duncan, and thank you for sharing your story.
No, thank you for having me.
We'll see you next time on FairPlay. A huge thanks for tuning into FairPlay today. We hope you've enjoyed hearing tales from across the festival site.
Subscribe to the Fairs channel and follow our socials for more content.
See you next time.
Bye.